So, the long-awaited rematch of Godzilla vs. Kong has finally come back after, I believe, 59 years of waiting, and a lot of waiting for this film in particular, too, because it was supposed to come out March of last year, I believe, and then it was pushed to November, and then it was pushed to March of this year, and then it took us forever to get a trailer, and so there was a long while where people were speculating that this movie was either never going to happen, or it was just going to be an absolute fucking train wreck, and just not live up to any kind of hype or expectation whatsoever. So, this is going to be my review for Godzilla vs. Kong. Very excited about it. If you don't know, if you're new here, I'm a huge Godzilla fan. Absolutely adore freaking Godzilla movies. Grew up on them. Love kaiju films. I got the original Godzilla vs. King Kong here. And I also have the Criterion Collection edition. And, some of the pictures they put on the back of this is really freaking weird. Like, this shit, literally never happens in the movie. Isn't it weird how they used to do that back in the day? They used to, make posters and stuff and, make all this kind of crazy shit that never happens. Anyways, what's going on, guys? Oh, also I got my little G here. Look at this guy. Look at this fucker. And this is the Godzilla from the original King Kong vs. Godzilla. I don't have a lot of figures because, I spend my money on adult things. Not like adult things, like that kind of adult thing, but living and groceries. But I did get this as a gift from a friend, and yeah, he's pretty dope, right? That's one of my favorite Godzilla designs of all time. But anyways, you're not here for that. You're here to review. You're not here to review. I'm here to review Godzilla vs. Kong. So, anyways, let's do that. First of all, I'll say whenever you're reviewing a movie like this, you kind of have to look at it in the perspective of what do you want out of this movie? The title says it all, Godzilla vs. Kong. Do you get that in the movie? Hell yes. Is it awesome in the movie? Hell yeah, it's awesome. So, what more review do you need than that? Honestly, if that's what you're going for, if you're going to see Godzilla fight Kong in an epic battle, you get a couple of them, and they are all, absolutely fantastic. Special effects look great, some of the best that this whole MonsterVerse has ever done, starting with Godzilla 2014, Kong Skull Island, King of the Monsters, and now this. Some of the CGI and the choreography of the fights themselves are pretty much the best that we've gotten so far within any of these films. We get to see everything clearly, everything is on the camera. They fight during the daytime, during the nighttime, they fight in the city, they fight in the ocean that you see in the trailer and everything. Unfortunately, minor spoiler, we don't get any fights in a forest, kind of, mountainous range, as sort of like what they did in the first movie or the original film. So we don't get to see them fight there, but we do get to see them fight quite a bit. The battles are very vicious and very in your face, and I really do enjoy the choreography that went along with it, and how they had the particular styles of Godzilla and Kong using their, natural gifted abilities within that fight. Whereas Kong, he is this ape, he is the guy that's going to be smashing things and jumping on things, and when they're in the city, he's using the terrain to his advantage, and he's jumping on buildings and using it as cover and stuff like that. It's really, really cool stuff. With Godzilla, he's got his atomic breath, that is his ace in the hole that he uses a lot in this movie, and it's awesome that he's able to do that. And he's also, when he's ramped up into this really kind of vicious sort of attack mode, where he's this predator, this, I don't want to say dinosaur when you talk about Godzilla, because some people get offended, but he's got that very vicious, crocodile, lizard, reptilian, just kind of, looming through the cityscape and everything, and using his claws, using his teeth, and flipping Kong over using his teeth, and his tail with the atomic breath and everything. So you get to see these characters use everything that they got. And obviously in the trailers you see that Kong has the powered up axe and everything. Definitely uses that to his advantage as well. And so all of that is in there. So what more do you want? It's Godzilla vs. Kong. You get Godzilla vs. Kong. You might get some more monsters in there too. Actually, you probably already know that you get more monsters in there too. So I don't know what more I need to say on that. Other than that, I'm going to kind of delve into spoilers, so if you don't want to see spoilers, if you don't want to know anything, and you want to watch the movie, it is in theaters somewhere if theaters are open, and it is also on HBO Max. I believe it's $13.99 or $14.99 a month. I don't know, I think it's worth it because they have a lot of great movies and content on there. Now, whereas the MonsterVerse sort of started grounded in reality with Godzilla 2014, very much takes place in our real world as we know it, and as the films have gone along, they've kind of delved more into the fantasy aspect and getting more and more out there as they go along. King of the Monsters kind of dipped its toe in that. It's yeah, Ghidorah's from outer space, we're not going to really focus on that too much, but, he's got these weird regenerative powers, and he's carrying a storm with him as he flies and stuff like that, so they're getting, a little bit more into the fantastical elements of the monsters and everything like that in that movie. In this movie, they fucking double down on that shit because now we're going into Hollow Earth. Okay, just out of nowhere, I didn't know what this movie was really going to be about plot-wise because I did my best to avoid spoilers. I watched the original trailer, the first trailer they put out, and I was like, that's it. I'm not looking at any more trailers, any more TV spots. I'm not looking at any spoilers. So I wanted to go in this movie as blank as possible. And so I had no idea they were doing this whole Hollow Earth plotline. And, I gotta say, just kind of like turning your brain off and just enjoying it for what it was, enjoying the fantasy elements of it, I thought it was pretty fun. Because a lot of the older Godzilla films, as they go along, traditionally, they usually start out very grounded and realistic, or at least taking place in the real world as we know it, and as it goes along, kind of moving more into turning Godzilla more into of a character as opposed to like a force of nature, and then adding in the sci-fi elements, adding in the fantastical elements and everything like that. So in a way, the MonsterVerse really is following tradition, as in the movies go along, they get kind of wackier as they do. This movie introduces the concept of Hollow Earth and also kind of gives us an origin story of where Kong comes from, and as well potentially where a lot of these kaijus and monsters, or the titans as they call them in this universe, where they could have potentially come from. But it's extremely dangerous to go into and explore because of the way that the gravity shifts, because you're kind of like going into the center of the earth, and then the gravity kind of changes to where you're standing, kind of like if it's a circle, within the sphere of the earth, you could be standing on anywhere in that circle, or, you could change where you're standing and everything, and the gravity would shift, and it's like super dangerous. I don't know. They explain it with a bunch of science jargon. I've only seen the movie once at this point, so forgive me if I've forgotten lines of dialogue or how particular things work. I am going to be watching it again tonight, but that's besides the point. Anyways, pretty much we're using Kong as our protagonist, and he's kind of the underdog as he was in the original film, and just in general, because if you think about the powers and abilities of Godzilla and Kong, Kong usually would serve as the underdog character because he's sort of more relatable to us as human beings, as apes are closer to humans and whatnot, so we can see his sort of emotions more, and they do a lot of unique things using Kong as sort of that like emotional kind of a center of the movie. And Kong is always traditionally a character that's also been taken advantage of. He's taken away from his homeland, and he's taken in chains and everything. So he's always kind of served that sort of like underdog, mistreated sort of character throughout all of the different kind of Kong movies and incarnations, and this movie is no different with that. Basically, in the beginning, keeping him within Skull Island, encased in a dome, which is really cool. I like how they explain that. I like how they explain that, the reason that Kong never showed up in the other movies, or that Godzilla never went after Kong to kind of defeat him. Because, again, with the Godzilla character, they kind of continue the idea that Godzilla is this ultimate alpha monster, and then if he senses something that kind of either threatens his domain or his kind of a place in the world, his place as the king of the monsters, he goes to kind of eradicate that, like with the Mutos and Ghidorah and Kong as well. But they have Skull Island in its entirety, like encased inside this dome, kind of separated away from the world that keeps Kong from the rest of the world, and so that they can study Kong and study how things work here, because essentially Skull Island, at least how I understood it, is sort of like a piece of what the Hollow Earth is somehow, like on the surface. So that sort of like explains why Skull Island is so weird and why there's so much weird shit there. So I like that idea, and I liked what they did with the little girl too. Gia, I think of her name is, or Gaia, I can't quite remember. Wait, isn't Gaia like Mother Earth or something? I don't know. Anyways, she could sort of communicate with Kong because she is a mute character. I believe the actor is also mute. I'm not sure. She can sort of sense Kong's emotions and feel his heartbeat and feel what he is experiencing and everything like that. So I really like the connection that they did between those two characters, and it really does, like I said, serve as sort of like the emotional center of the story, because none of the other characters really have any kind of emotional weight whatsoever. You're kind of really going off of this young child and Kong, and it's an interesting kind of like relation dynamic as well, because we are used to seeing Kong, just like grabbing a woman randomly, so having a sort of like a more nurturing, parental protector vibe with a child as opposed to that, I think actually works out a lot better than trying to do it the traditional way. So I did enjoy that aspect of it. And the plot gets going when the characters decide that they're going to explore Hollow Earth, and they sort of need Kong to lead them there, so they take Kong off of the island. And this is where you see the freight carrier like in the trailers, and once he's taken off the island, sort of sends out a signal to Godzilla, and Godzilla is coming after him. But Godzilla is also doing a lot of other weird, strange things in this movie, where he's destroying facilities and labs and everything like that, as in something as weird is going on behind the surface. And this is where, spoiler alert, A lot of people knew this before the movie, but just in case, again, we're in the spoiler section now. So Godzilla is also sensing the creation of a Mechagodzilla that particular characters are using to sort of like restore balance to humanity, being humanity's number one on the food chain, and we're going to take Godzilla out using a Mechagodzilla. I have very mixed feelings about this. On the one hand, I think it's awesome because it's Mechagodzilla. I mean, to see Mechagodzilla actually in like a high budget, franchise film, to actually see it on in the theater on the big screen, to see Mechagodzilla. One of my favorite films of the original Godzilla series was the first Mechagodzilla movie. I watched it a million times as a kid. I wore out the VHS. I freaking love Mechagodzilla, right? Not my favorite design though. The design I'm kind of iffy on. I think it's probably like third best. Like it's the original design, then Kiryu from the Millennium series, then this one, and then the 90s one just looks like a dork. I hate the 90s Mechagodzilla design. I can't. No, I don't like it. Anyways, so to put Mechagodzilla in this movie, I think was one, it's just, again, is doubling down on we're just going to go as freaking balls to the wall fantasy science fiction as we possibly can. So I appreciate that about it. I also appreciate the fact that it does give a chance for Kong and Godzilla to team up to fight somebody at the end of the movie, which is awesome. You get a nice like three-way battle going on. Very, very cool. And just like, it seriously is like the ultimate climax of this movie. It is badass. Like the battle against Mechagodzilla at the end will probably go down in history as one of the best like Godzilla fight moments in any of the films. I definitely got to say that. Not just the new films, but just in general. It's awesome. But then you have this weird way that they explained Mechagodzilla, and this is where I'm conflicted because, all right, so at the end of King of the Monsters, one of the severed heads of Ghidorah was coveted by kind of the I forget what the militant group was, the antagonist of King of the Monsters, but whatever. They don't even show up in this movie. We don't get to see that guy again, the guy that played the villain in King of the Monsters. I don't know where he went, but now the head is in the possession of Serizawa's son and his boss, and we really like don't get a lot of information that that's even Serizawa's son. I think it's kind of like mentioned in one line of dialogue, so I was kind of... I'll get to the human characters in a second. I'll save that for a moment. But anyway, so they had the Ghidorah skull, and they're linking that up, like using power from that to also go into controlling the Mechagodzilla, sort of like neural waves, whatever. I don't know. Science fiction jargon out the window. I didn't really understand it. But at some point in the movie, similarly to how in the Millennium series, like Mechagodzilla kind of took control of itself at one point, that happens. It gets super powered up, and then the pilot is destroyed, and Mechagodzilla is on its own, just on a rampage. But because they're using the Ghidorah skull to kind of control it, here's the part that like I need to rewatch it again and listen to the dialogue a lot better, because I wasn't sure if they were trying to say that the Mechagodzilla is just on like a rampage, like it's just kind of like a mindless creature just going off of pure instinct and just kind of doing what it does, destroying stuff, or if they were trying to imply that it was actually Ghidorah that kind of took over control of Mechagodzilla, and now Mechagodzilla is essentially like Ghidorah, like it's Ghidorah doing it. I don't know if it's like consciously, like what I mean is like consciously, like is Ghidorah actually in control doing what Ghidorah does, because that would make sense, or is it just on a mindless rampage doing what it does? I missed that part. I just didn't understand which direction it was going. Now ultimately it doesn't matter. No, not really, because you still get an awesome badass fight no matter what. It doesn't really matter, but just for like context's sake, just for like my own kind of mind, because I think it would be kind of cool if it was actually Ghidorah controlling it. So if that's what it was meant to do, that's cool. Then again, maybe it would have been better if it was Mecha King Ghidorah. You know what I mean? If it was like a mecha version of Ghidorah, like they did in the 90s, but kind of update it instead of just doing Mechagodzilla. But again, that's just like very minor, like little things. It doesn't really matter. But the thing is, like, because of all this Mechagodzilla stuff, I don't want it to take away from Godzilla vs. Kong, which is kind of the central focus of this movie and kind of the more important part. It's cool that there was a villain there for Kong and Godzilla to team up to fight together. And I'm glad it only happens in like the very final act of the movie, because this movie is built up around Godzilla and Kong fighting each other, and who would be like the ultimate alpha and who would actually win in the battle. And as far as that goes, it is a very satisfying experience because we do get a sense that kind of they both get their upper hands. They both are able to kind of take control of the fight at one point or the other. They both showcase their particular skills. However, it does kind of pretty much show that Godzilla wins the fight, which was cool. As a Godzilla fan, I'm happy with that. Essentially, it's sort of this... here's how I kind of gathered what they were experiencing together. So Godzilla finally pins Kong down. He's got his foot on him and everything, and they do the kind of epic roar thing that you actually see in the trailer back and forth. And it's sort of like Kong is refusing to submit. He's like, fuck you, I'm not going down. Godzilla continues to roar, like, listen, like, I'm going to kill you, like, you know. And it's sort of like implied that Kong at some point during that is like, all right, fine, whatever. And Godzilla decides not to kill him. So the way that I implied that is sort of like a symbol of, it wasn't about killing his opponent, it was just about displaying that dominance. It was about displaying like who is going to be the superior one, like make sure that you know that I'm the king, right? That sort of thing. And so that's what I got out of it. So I got out of it that Godzilla didn't need to kill Kong because all he really needed to do was prove that he was top dog, right? So he did that, fine. But then, immediately after that, Godzilla has to fight Mechagodzilla, and he's already wounded. He's already, like, he had a really freaking, like, he didn't just, like, dominate Kong. Like, it was a very fair fight back and forth. And then he starts getting his ass kicked by Mechagodzilla, and I was like, bro, what? And there's even a moment where, like, Mechagodzilla, like, pulls open his mouth and, like, is going to kill Godzilla the same way that Godzilla killed the Muto in 2014, and I was like, no! And then, of course, the human characters, they like, give Kong a shot of pre-workout through his heart, do like a defibrillator thing with this ship. I don't know, it's fine. Kong's got the pre-workout running through his veins. He's ready to fuck shit up. He grabs the axe. He's just like coming on, you know, fighting Mechagodzilla. And then like the best moment is because like the axe is powered up by like the energy like from the earth that also Godzilla is like powered with. So like Kong's got the axe and he's like getting pushed back from Mechagodzilla, and then Godzilla does the atomic breath on the axe, powers it up, and then Kong just like fucking rips his way through Mechagodzilla. It's like, bro, this is dope. This is so fucking awesome. Like this is fantastic. I would have liked Godzilla to help out in the final battle a little bit more, but he had already gotten his like ass kicked so much by then. And then after that, Kong and Godzilla are kind of face to face again. And it's sort of like implied this time that if they were to fight, I mean, Kong would have won. Because Kong's like super hyped up, like powered up. He's roided out right now. He's got the axe. Godzilla just had an intense fight with Kong, then Mechagodzilla. Like there's no way Godzilla could have defeated Kong again. Like he was just way too hurt, way too wounded. And I think this was meant to... This was sort of like, okay, yes, Godzilla did win, but if they were to go again, Kong would have won. So there's this power dynamic that goes back and forth. So even though there was a declared winner during their fight, it sort of implied that, like, it depends. Like, it really depends on the situation, right? And I think because Godzilla saw that, you know, he helped out and everything, and there was this sort of, like, mutual respect between the two of them, and Godzilla was like, all right, I'm gonna peace out. And so that's sort of how they do it. And I think that was a very smart way to do it because they get to have their cake and eat it too. Because they get to show an actual clear victor in the movie. Because if they just did the thing where they fell into the ocean, like in the original, and like they've done in so many films, people would be pissed. You know, because there's these versus movies all the time, and you never get like a real clear winner. Like there's like Freddy versus Jason and stuff, and Freddy winks at the camera. It's like, what the fuck does that mean? I don't know. We never got a sequel. And so like, I like that they had a declared winner, but at the same time, they still gave Kong fans their due because at the end, it's like, well, Kong would win the rematch if they did it. So they get to have sort of a little bit of both. They kind of get to have the justification of both, and then also get to have a team up against Mechagodzilla. And I gotta say that that's a really smart way to do it. So that's how I feel about that. I think it was a lot of fun. Now, as far as the human characters, all right, let's get into that. The human characters in this movie are pretty much awful. And I don't say that as somebody that hates the human characters in all the Godzilla movies. I really don't. Actually, I really liked Kyle Chandler as the main character in King of the Monsters. And I have two big gripes about this movie. One, and this is not going to surprise a lot of you that follow my channel, is, and I'm sorry, it just doesn't work for me, is the humor. The humor and the comedy relief aspect of this movie. And this was done with like Millie Bobby Brown teaming up with her friend and then the conspiracy theorist guy. The thing is, like, I'm glad that Millie Bobby Brown was back, her character, because I liked her too. I liked her and her father in King of the Monsters. The other character in Serizawa, of course, but he's no longer with us, unfortunately. Really enjoyed them, but yeah, the conspiracy theorist character and her like best friend or whatever it was, her like beta friend that she drags around, I don't know, I just did not enjoy the humor from them. I like the idea of a character being like a conspiracy theorist that has his own podcast, you know, and then kind of works for this kind of shady company, but then kind of spills their secrets online. I like the idea of that. I like the idea of that character, but I just didn't vibe with the humor. I felt like as the movie went on, his humor got worse and worse. In the beginning, it was okay. I kind of enjoyed it. I like when the facility's being destroyed and these two guards are like, "Hey, what are you doing?" He's like, "Are you kidding me? Like, you're actually going to like question me when we're in the middle of like a disaster right now? Like, you're crazy." You know, I kind of like the humor that was going on with that. But then as it went on, it just got worse and worse and worse as the movie went on. And every time it cut back to those characters, I was like, man, I'm really happy to see Millie Bobby Brown's character, but I just can't with these two dudes. Like, I just can't with them. And yeah, did not work for me whatsoever. On the Kong side, again, I think, what was her name? Gia, I think, the silent character. I mean, she was the only one that was interesting because she was actually communicating with Kong. I didn't care for Liv Tyler's character or Skarsgård's character. That they were just very very bland. And I know complaining about human characters in the Godzilla movie is like, I know, it's like, what do you want? And that's why I reviewed like the monster stuff first, the fighting stuff first. That's the more important part. I completely agree, but at the same time, man, these characters just didn't work. And then also my second gripe was Kyle Chandler's character from King of the Monsters. I thought he was a good protagonist. He was this wildlife expert. He kind of like understood the way that Godzilla was working. He understood how the animals were going to, or the monsters were going to interact with each other, how the alpha domination works, and how you know everything kind of came together. He used his expertise as a way to kind of incorporate that in with the monsters, and I like that. I like that they were able to do that. And he also had a good story trying to, you know, dealing with the death of his son and everything like that, and then moving forward, you know, learning to not hate Godzilla because of that, because he's just doing what the creature does. You know, there wasn't anything like, yes, it happened, but it's like respecting a force of nature. It's like respecting a gigantic storm, or respecting a tornado or something like this. Something that's just going to happen naturally that you have no control over. It's not anything like within the human capacity to fix this or to change this or to try to get out of it. It's just that's the way that it is, and sometimes you are just subject to something more powerful than you, and you can still respect that power even if it took something away from you. So anyways, maybe I looked into it too deep, who knows. Kyle Chandler has like 3 scenes in this movie, and they're all pointless. Every single scene that he has is him like, "Where's Maddie?" He pulls out his phone. "Oh, like, she's not answering my calls." And that's like it. That's his whole purpose in this movie. And then at the end, he finds her. He's like, "Oh, I'm so happy you're safe." Like, I don't know. Like, the idea of returning characters in a Godzilla franchise is something that's not done a whole lot. It hasn't really been done like since the Heisei series, and even then, it was just like Miki. If you guys know what I'm talking about. So I like the idea of these characters coming back, and the fact that he was like barely in this movie was kind of disappointing to me. I was hoping to see more of him, especially since he was focused in the trailers. You know, his name was in the opening credits as the movie was starting and everything. By the way, great opening credit sequence, fantastic. And so yeah, I was just kind of disappointed to not see him in the movie, really. And then, like I said, the Godzilla group of characters, just the humor was not working for me. But, you know, it is what it is. But overall, like I said, I did very much enjoy this movie. It delivers on what it promises, and I think it'll be a fun movie to kind of rewatch as time goes by. And I hope that this movie is actually able to make enough money or do enough profit so that they look at it and say, hey, we could make another MonsterVerse movie, because as of right now, there's nothing slated. Like, this was going to be, I don't know if it's going to be the last one, but I think they were kind of waiting on this one to see how it did before they decide to do anything moving forward, because we had the other films, they've had mixed reception. I think even this, like, critically might not be doing well, but audience wise I think it is doing really well. And really all that matters is how much cheddar it makes at the end of the day, how much it makes the studio. You know, they don't care what the critics say. As long as they're making bank, they're going to make more. And so I really hope this movie does very, very well, because I would love to see more movies in this universe. I would love to see more Godzilla characters be brought in. I would love to see like Biollante or something like that. Even more movies with Kong. Or now that we have the Hollow Earth concept, we can have a limitless potential of kaiju that could possibly come from there. If we want to delve harder into the sci-fi, we can do more things from space. Like, there's a lot more things that we can do with this. Have an alien invasion film, something like that. The potential is endless. Also, new kaiju. Let's have some more new ones. Like, the Mutos were cool, even though we didn't get to really see a whole lot of them because everything would cut away every 5 seconds. But, let's create some new kaiju and stuff like that, too. I mean, Skullcrawlers are pretty cool, too. So they're coming up with new things as they're rebooting the old things too. So I like that. I like that they're doing that. So I would really like to see a continuation of this universe and see what they can possibly do moving forward. But it all is going to depend on how this movie does, and that's what I'm worried about. Also, if I'm ranking the MonsterVerse films right now, I've only seen Godzilla vs Kong once so far, so my opinion may change. But right now, I still have Godzilla King of the Monsters first, then Godzilla vs Kong, then Skull Island, then 2014. The reason why King of the Monsters is ahead of this one is, well, one, it's got, Ghidorah, Rodan, Mothra. Like, I love all those classic kaiju characters. I love seeing them. I love what they did with Ghidorah. I like the human characters more in that movie. And, it's got, like, the burning Godzilla and everything. It's got so many, like, little nods to the older films in that movie that just kind of, like, warm my heart as I watch it. Also, this movie does have a lot of nods to older films, too. It has sort of references to the original. They don't fight in a forest, so he doesn't use a tree, but there is a moment where Kong takes the axe and shoves it down Godzilla's throat, which is from that classic scene in the original where he takes a tree and does that. So there is that kind of stuff in the movie, too. So if you're looking for little homages, little kind of... just little nudges to the older films and everything like that, that is definitely focused in here. Anyways, this review has probably gone on way too long. So if you saw Godzilla vs. Kong, what do you guys think? Leave it all in the comments below. Also, if you wanted me to do more Godzilla videos or Godzilla vs. Kong theories or ideas of what could come next, MonsterVerse videos, whatever it is on that, I would love to do it, but it's going to depend on what you guys want to see. Other than that, let me know what you think, guys. Movie is available in theaters if they are open near you, also on HBO Max, so go ahead and check it out. Leave a comment down below. Please like this video, subscribe. All the links are in the description for my Twitter, Discord, Patreon, merch if you want to grab some of that. All that stuff is down below. I'd be happy if you checked it out. Other than that, guys, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you next time.